All right, tonight on Newsnight, we will be looking at last week's I wanted to call it the East Africa Business Summit, but actually it is the Rwanda-Uganda Business Forum that took place here at the Kampala Serena Hotel last week. In attendance was both President Yoweri Museveni and President Paul Kagame, who were hosted to a panel discussion amongst invited guests. That was the third Uganda-Rwanda Business Forum. Andrew, the old man of the clan and also the CEO of the Independent magazine, joins us live via Skype from Kigali. Andrew, I will be joining you a few hours from now, but let's discuss this. What is your takeout from last week's business summit? Because several people were excited. One, that it was coming at a time when, just a day, I think, after President Museveni had launched the Mirima road to Rwanda, the alternative route into Rwanda from Tungamo. And this was a good thing for the business community, especially the traders who attended the forum. But Boro, what was the takeout for you?
Well, let me first begin by saying that the fathers of daughters in Kigali are about to stage a demonstration that you are coming here.
All right, go ahead.
But that is, about the East African Business Forum. First of all, Maurice, you should understand that the business between Rwanda and Uganda has grown by leaps and bounds since 2000. Right now, Uganda exports more than $240 million worth of goods to Rwanda. Rwanda sends not less than 150,000 visitors to Uganda every year. It has the largest number of tourists that come to Uganda and who stay the longest in Uganda. Also, Rwanda sends more than 100,000 students per year to study in Ugandan schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. And then also you have a large influx of Ugandan expatriates working in Rwanda. So in other words, the integration of the two economies has been beyond measure, even without the East African community. And of course, the exports of Uganda to Rwanda, many of them include food exports. Now, if you attended the business forum last week, you would see the executive director of Stanbic Bank, Patrick Mwehire, made a brilliant presentation and said, look, they were discussing this issue of capital. How do you raise long-term money to finance long-term investments? Now remember that the financial sector in Uganda and largely Rwanda is dominated by commercial banks. Now let me explain to you. Commercial banks collect short-term money, which is called demand deposits. The policy magician receives his salary and other earnings through a bank, let's say called Korean Bank. At any one time, he can go with his ATM machine, rather with his card, debit card on an ATM machine and withdraw that money. So assuming you deposited your money in a bank and the bank lent it to Andrew Mwenda to build a factory for 20 years, you will go to the ATM and you will not be able to get your cash. So because commercial banks collect short-term demand deposits, they cannot lend them over the long term because they will suffer from a currency mismatch between immediate demands of their depositors and the long-term needs of their borrowers. So, to resolve the problem of long-term financing, because remember our countries are poor, and they need to raise long-term money to be able to finance long-term investments. It is only long-term investments that can give you transformation or development, as we call it. Now, the issue that we're discussing, how can East Africa mobilize long-term savings? If you come to Uganda, the place where you can find long-term savings is largely NSSF. Because a guy of 25 years working at MTN begins saving now, he will get their money 30 years later when he's 55. So you can afford to use the savings of such a person, lend them long-term because you know that for 30 years you have enough time to play with this money. And both President Museveni and President Kagame applauded Patrick Mwehire for stating this point. So I think that the East African leaders and the governments need to put in place financial instruments and other instruments, non-financial instruments, like supporting the development of capital markets to be able to raise long-term money to finance infrastructure development.
Well said, Andrew. This meeting, the forum, did bring together 300 top company participants or members from 300 organizations invited for this forum. However, I need to note that one, of course, several other people were on that panel. They also included somebody from Kigali Heights. I think Dennis Carrera, the proprietor of Kigali Heights. And the most important thing for me here was the fact that the president, that's President Museveni, said, with the growth we are, we are seeing in the region at at about an average of about 6%, even with the problems we have with infrastructure and energy, he said the future was extremely bright, and it's only partnerships and cooperation like the forum you have, where Uganda and Rwandan businessmen come together to discuss not just their challenges but actually opportunities, that this was actually the right forum and this is the way to go. Is that something you would want to tackle or talk about?
Yes, I could say that the future of East Africa is bright. If you make that projection, you would have to add a caveat and say ceteris paribus, or holding other factors constant. You never know, there can be a coup, an assassination. Our countries are still fragile. The institutions are still weak. So you can have a coup, an assassination, or anything can happen and send these countries off the rails. But holding those other factors constant and assuming that, one, we have policy consistency, because Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya, and Tanzania have right now very good macroeconomic policies. We have been able to control inflation. We have a flexible exchange rate system. We have been able to sustain policies that allow for a robust growth of the private sector. If you look at Uganda, Uganda's average growth over the last 28 years has been about 7.3%. That's an unprecedented rate of growth. And many Ugandans don't see this. You can just even look at the Stanbic Bank. If you look at Stanbic Bank, whose executive director was there, it was sold in 2003 by government of Uganda at $19.5 million. If you go to look at its market capitalization on the Uganda stock exchange market right now, it is worth $700 million. I think it had assets of about 200 billion. Now it has assets of 3.1 trillion. Very soon that bank will be about 2 billion worth in assets. So you clearly see that there has been rapid growth, and every other bank, whether it's Grand Bank, Barclays Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, whichever bank you mention in Uganda, they have enjoyed rapid growth. So on the basis of what we have seen over the last 20 years, 15 years of rapid growth in Africa, we can project and say, yes, it is possible that the future of Africa is bright. What Africa right now is lacking is that we have been able to grow a large middle class. People have bought very many cars, but your roads in Kampala and Andover Road in Uganda are still narrow. That's why you have chronic traffic jams. You do not still have a sufficient supply of electricity. That's why you have chronic power shortages and the load shedding. We have not even built railways, so the cost of transporting goods from the coast to the interior is very expensive. Now, if you look at Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya, they are planning heavy infrastructure projects. The standard gauge railway, that's a $15 billion investment. If you look at the oil pipelines, that is an investment in excess of 10 billion. Then they are planning major highways. Uganda is planning to produce about 1,700 megawatts of electricity in the next 3-4 years. Unlike what people are saying, actually the construction of Karuma and Isimba has already started. So in that degree, I would agree with Museveni that yes, holding other factors constant and looking at these plans, if they can be executed, the future of Africa and East Africa especially is bright.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I just need to add that we have the East Africa Business Summit that is starting this week, and we will be discussing that tomorrow on Newsnight. Thank you, Andrew.
And that is what is bringing you to Kigali, right?
Yes, and that's what is actually taking me to Kigali, the East Africa Business Summit. Andrew, thank you very much, the old man of the clan and CEO of the Independent Magazine, and that was Newsnight.